From the beginning of time, earth, like all other places of existence, was created with an explosion, therefore putting into the earth forevermore the feeling and sense of explosion. For too many humans, they take this to mean that the earth is indestructible, causing them to try to create larger and larger forms of explosion in the name of a bomb. If it was, which it isn't, that the earth had a feeling, it would be saddened by each explosion. This is a turning point in the long history of the earth. Point should be unnecessary. A point arrived at because there's been so much injustice on earth. That is a lack of equality, which you would see as fairness. This lack of equality shown itself through time, including in modern history, through the refusal to allow people an equal voice or even to speak. When this happens, frustrations grow. And when someone frustrated feels either desperate or powerful enough, they will seek retribution. And looking at today in the world, you must understand the inequality of the way the affairs of earth are conducted, where there always seems to be a need for one country to be dominant based upon its financial reserves and military might. If a country was to dominate the earth based upon its moralistic position, it would be one of the third world countries, most likely a small island in the Pacific atoll region. But earth does not judge anything on morals. Instant gratification, power, and a lack of scruples. There is not one country on earth that you could reasonably hold up as a model to copy. Democracy failed when it was instigated and exists in name. Dictatorships serve but a few, for the answer is communal, where everyone requires everyone who survive, and in that survival to grow as people and to prosper as people, unrelated to prospering financially. So many of your levels of government through the world's different countries are redundant. So many exist to service the needs of a coterie of people who will in turn feed back to the people in power financial reward, usually hidden. Your entire earth, even in third world countries, is predicated on wealth. This lack of fairness shows itself as desperation. Why do you think it is that where a country has been treated terribly, or its inhabitants, what it does is try to make itself a financial powerhouse so that it can't be attacked again? This works for the country and for the individuals rewarded financially, and fails the earth. What can you do about a flawed system of governance in the short term? Not much. You won't achieve much as an individual voice of complaint. You will just make yourself sick. In all countries, governments are structured with departments to protect the government, not to serve the people. Your rights have been severely diminished at the instigation of a powerful few. The relevance of this is the ongoing collection of power amongst too few. Therefore, in yours and other countries, you have unrepresentative governments. Your will, only important, time of election, time when lies flow freely. The picture I'm painting for you is abysmal. You can't look what's happening on earth without understanding why, through history, it shows itself as a rise of dominant countries. In ancient history, that was Egypt, Rome, and Greece. Each has fallen away, now trying to be replaced. In more modern history, the advent of great navies, or England, France, Portugal, later America, make themselves apparently great through controlling the sea lanes, where they dictated by force what shipping could get through, bringing provisions to other countries, where ordinary people were at the whim of the rich and the powerful. One of the better outcomes, whether you see it or not, of your two big world wars was something closer to a balance of power where no one country could dominate. It is this that is changing. Nothing much else has changed by the names. You're living in a world of uncertainty, and as always, on your earth, when the most powerful and most wealthy are corrupt, all beneath them will be corrupt in differing levels. There's a shift in many ways away from the power of governments brought about by your great threat of sickness, but this will pass. It's passed before. Those seeking to control the world through the veneer of saving people from sickness will not in the long term succeed. They will eventually fail dismally. For if earth is conditioned to one thing, it is that the people expect the power to be with the elected officials, not with some group ordained only by the most wealthy to take critical power over people's lives from governments. If that continued as a trend, governments would become neutralized and slowly they would fall away. That is not in the interest of the people in the government, so eventually they will fight that. This is where this self-preservation system is going to help you. I am not saying there will not be some turmoil and indecision, but it will resolve itself. There have always been battles on earth where some body or organization rises to the top of power only to later diminish. Was it not in your recent lifetimes that this position was held by tobacco companies? To some degree, in some countries, it's held by companies who make weapons of war. And they work hard and lobby for war to continue anywhere. Just like a tobacco company will work hard to get people to smoke, and a drug company hard for people to take drugs. This is the self-serving nature of earth, where you as people are but pawns to be used. Your power is to not do it. I don't mean to defy government's laws. What I do mean is where you have choice, you will act in the best interests of yourself and other people, not in the best interests of those who create a fictional story to convince you that they know better than you for you. This is the way of earth. This is what makes me sad. I watch the machinations daily, nightly. For when you have a view of the entire earth, there is no nighttime. Every time individuals or groups of individuals find a power, find a joy, find a bright energy, a lot is done to curtail that, to contain that, because it does not suit the interests of those making the big decision. What good would it be for a tobacco company, weapons company, a drug company to ply their product and individuals said, "Oh, thank you, not for me. You have taken away their power, and this is so misunderstood. You're only now beginning to learn it in the food production, where more and more people are becoming educated to the adverse nature of what food contains. If you had any notion of the small amount of toxins in most foods, it would frighten you, but based on that the body can hold and contain and work with small amounts, it is acceptable. It is not. Cancer more often than not attacks you from the inside, not the outside. It gets into you from what you breathe, what you drink, what you eat. Contamination is rife, care zero. But if people are more judicious about their choice, power of the wealthy is gone. You do not live on a planet yet where you can be forced into everything. That is one of the great things of earth that I observe. No matter what country and at what time, some people, if not enough, have defied the rules of government and the wishes of companies in the interests of the people. Therefore, the great power on earth is with the few, not the rich and wealthy, but the few who can cause people to want an inner goodness, a purity of body as well as spirit and mind, and will cause people to think. Let us look at the next stage of what I'm saying before I get to what you think interests you. Education systems as I see them are structured for the dumb, where you're taught to think in the smallest, most minute way. Each of you has been taught that 1 and 1 is 2, but who has been taught why? And who has been taught an alternate way? Who has been taught? Don't worry about any number before 10,000. Start there. That's a much better starting place, and this is why. Blindly you follow, for all governments want order, and the more they teach you to follow the most basic things, the more order there will be. Therefore, easier for government. At this point, I am going to digress. One of the unforeseen difficulties of this great manifestation manifesto of stealing from you your human rights through this period of so-called sickness was in the children. For every teacher on earth they will lament the time away and how children have returned, suffering from the scourge of parents. But on the good side, every child is much more unencumbered, more free, and those who are able to think and start at 10,000 will. The rest will not start at all. But it is going to free up and bring a new wave of thinking. People less encumbered by the rigidity of the small thinking of your education system. If mathematics, which it is one of the ways to understand much more, it should not be tied to your financial system. For whilst it is corrupted. And that is the greatest reason it exists. If you started to think of any topic but mathematics will do, without any concept of finance, and you thought only of a problem that needs help, then you will be able to get there using a course of mathematics, because your mind is not conditioned to dollars and cents, ones and 100s. What this leads to is the conditioning over so long, centuries upon centuries, to control humans, to keep you organized and small. Have you not realized that if you examine your childhood, the more you have been constrained, the smaller you will think, the more emotional problems you will have. This is what is meant by adventure. You can learn to be adventurous. You can break free of the mortal constraints put upon you. There is so far to go, but I will keep saying all night, whilst there are people who dare to think in their own best interest, in the interest of love, and in the interest of the good growth of mankind without a financial gain, there is hope. And those with great power will lose it. The great condition that keeps you constrained, laziness. Why is it that you get rid of a government who has one style to replace it with another style, and in a few years you'll bring back the first one? Laziness. Why have you as people not demanded change so they represent the people? And this is the key. If you see your role in life, no matter what you do, as being representative of a group of people, represent them for their good, for their growth, not for yours. That will come as a byproduct, not as the mainstream approach. Your laziness allows you to be tricked and retricked. And every time there's an innovation, the tricksters of the world look for a way to use your technological growth to trick you more. And every time someone tricks you and gets away with it, it's because in some area of your life where you are entitled to expect it, you are not properly represented. This is the way that has gone on. Keep the populace voiceless. Make them think they have a say. We call it equality. And from equality comes a joy, a feeling of freedom and the growth of the individual. Each of you know that you are an individual inhabiting the earth at this point in time only, and you're doing that for your own growth, so that spiritually you can become more evolved, and you lament the difficulties of your life, yet in the pursuit of your own growth you continuously forego your own power for growth, and that is only in the form of external organizations to you. That doesn't include the bad choices you make. Therefore, how can you complain for representation when you so often are such a poor representative of yourself? Own this. You can look to me to do many things, but I can't save you from yourself. Whilst the earth cannot feel as you know feel, you can feel the earth. Not many people fear the earth other than occasionally. It is your bedrock. It is what allows you to exist in a physical form. Let us not think for the moment of the pollution. Let us think of the destruction. When one of your modern bombs is let off, what is destroyed? Buildings, part of the earth, and a large slab of the atmosphere. For what I can promise you is that what is in each bomb is not good for you. Yet it fills the air, depriving oxygen, adding pollutants, causing cancers and other abnormal external and internal growths, including ongoing malnutrition and a malforming of the human form as new babies are created. Thus, every war zone and anywhere reachable within approximately 1,000 kilometers is affected. It's affecting the energy of the earth, and it's affecting your atmosphere. It's acrid, toxic, burning up your respiratory system, starting in your throat. It's not an accident that the increase in matters relating to thyroid have grown in proportion with the growth of wars, and some are more susceptible than others. What is contained in these bombs causes sepsis, a breakdown in the body of its ability to fight, causes the rotting of teeth, reduction in eyesight, and reduced hearing, not to mention skin and hair issues. Every single bomb has an effect. Matters not, you say, or it's over there, more than 1,000 kilometers away. Yet in a war on earth, people are displaced, and to be relocated, they travel the earth for a new home. And then what they do, including in this country, first or second hand, is to spread what is within them, of no fault of theirs. So to some degree, nowhere is immune from the ravages of war, and I'm not even talking of the moral ravage. For anyone trying to justify their war or promote its advantages is spreading a toxin greater than any physical ill. They are purveyors of mistruth. no matter how justified they think they are. Which brings us to the next point. These things are done because people think only with the thought of immediacy. They want an immediate solution. They care not for history, even though they say it justifies their actions. They care not for the future. They are acting no different than anyone else through history. And I will remind you again, every nation that has claimed greatness in the course of the earth has failed eventually. And this will continue until such time as someone can realize that equality of nations and people is the only way forward. Power is not in your technological innovation, for that is corrupted for self-gain. And this is where it all lands. Changing nature of earth is the changing power of corruption. We have governments, or you have governments on one hand, wanting greater power and fighting each other. Companies, organizations, controlled by hidden people, seizing a time in history of weak governments and governance, trying to steal power from governments. But they're unseen and not noticed. And as governments become fearful of a loss of power, they don't look to make themselves strong as a nation morally. They look to dominate or who to align themselves with to survive. And in all of this, the people are forgotten. And more and more people are saying, forget us not. Add to this an uncertain climate due to what you're doing to the atmosphere of the earth, and nothing is going smoothly. What gives any country the right to control the sea lanes, or the air lanes, or the roads? All of that belongs to you. But why would you complain? You won't even grasp your personal power to grow. Looking in your drink about your parents. Where are the people who care about people? That is the change that is not yet here, but is coming at the moment there is turmoil. No one knows where the power is disappearing to. Why has there been an increase in wars of recent times? And your two major conflicts have scope of growing. Why is that? Part of this confusion of power and part of seizing a weak time in history where no one so-called great ethical, moral force will block them. What you're seeing for one of the first times in your history in the most recent war, people voicing both sides of the argument. No longer accepting government saying you will support this side. They are the wrongdoers, the other side. There are those who are saying, look back in history, for the wrongdoings of today are from the suppression of yesterday, no matter which conflict you're referring to. Whilst war itself is disgusting, the effect that is having on the populace of a lot of the world is going to be for the betterment of the world, as you are fighting against the machine of lies called propaganda. Any side in a war who says I am justified is lying, unless they say this is what we did to help cause it. And in time we will reverse that. People like me do not see your cleverness. Killing people to bring peace is a strange way of peace. Not only that, it's never worked. Why would you try it again? So history has led us now to this tumultuous path of there are less clear leaders and rulers, and governments are having their power taken from them, and people are beginning to question. Let me take you back for your peace of mind to wars. When one breaks out, another does, and another will follow. That is the way of you people, because it feels justified. What's the interest of me is to block its escalation. We can do that energetically in any number of ways, and if necessary, we are able to and would block the path of rockets, or guide them to where they're not meant, so as to help bring an end to a conflict. It is not difficult for us to redirect. It is not something we do or will do other than in extreme cases. And I know that leaves us open to a criticism of sitting in judgment. Someone has to. We want to block all war, but it is not within what we are allowed to do that, so we are limiting it. Could you imagine if all the effort put into weapons of war was put into helping society? How much more advanced you would be, mostly because you have less reason to hate each other. Are you going to hate someone so much if you don't feel you have the power to hurt them? And that is what humans use weapons of war for, to hurt. I have the power, so I will hurt you. Without that power to hurt you, I'd do something strange and talk. You might express a feeling. You might express to another leader or someone you know who you've hurt. I did not realize the depth of what I was doing. It saddens me that I have saddened you. Can we find a way to reconstruct ourselves together? Is this not better than a demolition of each other, which when you as people have seen it through your lives in war, it becomes how you treat each other. You set out to demolish each other because you're trained to do it. How do you begin to change? We keep rebuilding the energy of the earth from the inside and add to its stability as much as we're allowed. We can do more, but we do it as we're governed. We will keep the earth stable in the main. We will do what we can through time to overcome the toxicity put into the atmosphere. But each of you has to begin to care. If you care for the earth, you won't want it bombed. If you care for the earth, you'll begin to care for animals. If you care for animals, you won't want to see them destroyed. If you care for animals, you might eventually care for people. How many of you in your last 1 week's discussions with other people have sat there and complained about your animals as compared to the time you've complained about other people? You complain because you don't care enough. You don't feel. What is it I have done to help cause this to you? And if the other person says everything, then you say, I must walk away until you can meet me with your honesty. This is a lesson not only for people, but for countries. Time to stop any form of laziness. You come here with advanced knowledge, advanced energy, and frustrated because you succumb to the negativity of people and earth. You are only entitled to complain about others when you are acting to the fullest of your energy. And at times you feel alone in doing that. At that point you're entitled to pause, complain, and then regroup and move forward. Part of the role of myself and my people to not only block wars, not only try to fix the earth and the atmosphere, but to encourage energetically, to refuel you with a hope for something into the future. Each of the good people on earth, and there are so few of you in relation to the whole population, is that I still have free time. Lament others only when you are operating to your full power. You can only operate to your full power when you can put aside the real or imagined hurts of your past. Don't complain of the abuses of power of others when you are giving up your own. What we're heading to is this. I've given you an understanding of why the world is changing and is in this state of flux, and what you can do about that from your own perspective. There is going to be more tumultuousness on earth in at least the next 8 years, off and on. By the time we get to the year of 31, we're hoping there will be the signs of great change, a lot of which will begin in the year of 28. We're trying to get the earth to see that treating each other with such a lack of equality is what's happened through history and is poisoning each of you. We're trying to see an increase in personal accountability. This is going to result in a lot of shifts of power. And the more that each individual is able to claim their power and able to make the best choices for themselves and their loved ones and those whom they are shepherding, and what we foresee will be a significant shift of power on earth, and so many of those who are the hidden puppeteers are going to be exposed and forced to find another way. It is going to bring more instability until this begins, and that will come in waves. And it is our plan and what we can foresee that by the year of 38 we will be through the worst, with some of those years immediately before it, more precisely 2, of great difficulty, but in terms of cleansing effective. In the 40s, but particularly starting in the year of 41, it is meant the world will be different. At the moment, in this crushing of power and people trying to dive in to reclaim it, all forms of odd behavior will take place. This is why you're seeing an increase of extremism on the so-called 2 sides of the political spectrum. All that is opportunistic grabbing of power. People spreading ill. That's why you've had such an increase in your organized crime. This drug epidemic will not go on forever. Whether it be legal or illegal drugs, 2 words will change it. No thanks. All this is you're not in the eye of the storm, you're in the storm of a redistribution of power. I think I have talked enough. Each of you, I watch over you.